We are live. This is Pitchdeckasia, powered by Asia Tech Podcast. My name is Graham Brown, joined by Kai-Yin Lin, all the way from Taiwan.
Exactly.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So you flew in from Taipei?
From Tainan, from the south of Taiwan.
Okay, from the south.
Yep.
And when did you arrive in Singapore?
3 days back.
3 days back.
Yep.
Welcome to Singapore. Welcome to our studio.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about Takupa.
Yep.
And you very kindly explained to me what Takupa means in both Mandarin and potentially Japanese as well. Let's do the Mandarin version.
Okay.
What does it mean?
So Takupa means park your parking spaces.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So ta means yours.
Yep.
And ku means garage or parking space.
Yeah.
And pa means parking.
Okay. So we've done it in Mandarin.
And in Japanese, taku means like home or house.
Yep.
Right. And pa means parking.
Could mean parking. Right. Excellent. So you got it all covered.
All covered.
Excellent.
All
Good
covered.
for you.
Thank
So
you.
Kai-Yin, we're going to talk about Takupa.
Okay.
And we're going to look at your pitch deck.
Yep.
And we'll bounce around the pitch deck a little bit. We won't necessarily follow the chronological order that you set it out.
Right.
And talk a little bit about your background as well. So you're Taiwanese first.
I'm Taiwanese.
But you spent quite a bit of time in Canada, right?
Yes.
What's the story there?
Okay, so I left Taiwan when I was 12 years old, and simply because my mom wanted to send us to Canada just for a better education. So she was asking me and my brother that if I wanted, we wanted to go there. And actually, my brother went a year ahead of me.
Older brother.
My older brother, yes. So I was like, yeah, my brother's there. You know, he's telling me, you know, every time when we have a phone call, I say, you know, mom and dad are not here. Like, I'm so free. You should join me. I was like, yes, I will, mom. I'm going to Canada.
Right. Where did you live in Canada?
I was in Toronto.
Toronto.
Right.
Great. And how long did you live there?
I was there for 12 years. Yeah. And we were staying with my parents' friends. And, but when we are 18 years old and we legally don't need any guardian, like me and my brother was like, hey, we should move out right away. And then like right when we were 18 years old. So we did that and we were very happy.
Yeah, great story.
To be free.
Yeah, awesome. If only every teenager could do that, right?
Right.
So you're 12 years in Canada, you're Taiwanese, you're here in Singapore, and let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey as well and talk about Takupa.
Sure.
A little bit of background to that before we start talking about Takupa. You spent some time working in Foxconn.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Obviously, for those that don't understand, explain a little bit about Foxconn first. Obviously, it's a name very familiar in Taiwan and here in Singapore as well. So
right, Foxconn is an OEM company. I think it's the largest manufacturing company in the world. We have about more than 1 million employees worldwide, and I was a project manager and to handle a few projects with me. And I mean, it was a good time. I mean, I think that was the only job that I actually spent my 4.5 years there. Because before that, like after I graduated from Canada, I went back to Taiwan and I was working there for a few companies and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I sort of hopping around and dip in and dip out for each companies, and the majority of my experience are in sales. But even I didn't really focus in one company for a long enough time. But like I get a lot of opportunities and chances to travel like around the world because I'm dealing with all the overseas vendors and customers. And because of that, they makes me that I wanted to like working in the overseas later on. You know, so I spent about my 8 years working time in Taiwan, and I was like, I wanted to go somewhere.
Right.
So I actually moved from Foxconn to Japan right after that.
Oh, how long were you in Japan?
2.5 years.
Right.
About. Yeah, 2.5 years.
Hence Takupa.
And then Takupa right now.
Right. Where were you in Japan?
I was in Tokyo.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in Tokyo. And but before I moved to Japan, I already planned that I want to have my own business, which is Takupa that you see it right here.
Right.
And I have been planning for a long time, actually, for my own business. But it was not that easy to start your own business. And because I don't have any technical background. And I wanted to do these shared parking things. And so I was looking for like technical person to work together as a company. But unfortunately, it's not easy. So I think the journey has been like 3 years, 4 years already. And finally I was like, you know what? I want to use my saving. I'm going to outsource. I'm going to do it right now. If I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're based in Taiwan.
At the moment,
that's where your
yes.
company's registered.
Yes.
Okay. And just put this into context before we dive into the pitch deck.
Okay.
You're the founder. You have a co-founder, or it's just you?
I have a co-founder.
Is that your technical co-founder?
He's not really technical, but
Right.
he's a designer.
Okay.
Yep.
So yourself and a designer.
Yep.
And when did you incorporate the company?
Last year, June.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're just under a year old.
Under a year old.
This is
right?
in March, by
Well,
the way.
not,
so-
yeah, not even a year yet.
yeah, under a year. So
Under a
9
year,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so the first year, always the biggest challenge as well. Let's see how you're getting on. We're going to dive into the pitch deck, and
Sure.
maybe we can. I mean, obviously, you've explained it's something to do with parking from
Right.
the name, obviously.
Yep.
Let's talk about the market you're in first, so
Okay.
people can understand. There's lots of different applications in parking. So,
Right.
I want to jump around here. You talk about the market opportunity. We're talking specifically for Taipei.
Only
Yeah.
at the moment,
Yeah,
right?
right. So the capital city of Taiwan.
Yes.
What is the opportunity here? Can you define the market that you're in here so we can understand what it is that you're providing a solution to?
Right. So it's a shared parking. It's like, parking, version of Airbnb. So we want all the every individuals to share their private parking spaces for the outsider, and simply it's very easy because Taipei has very less parking
Right.
and more cars there. So that's the problem I'm trying to solve.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I have a house and I have a private parking
Right.
space, I can rent that out through Takupa.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've
Yeah.
seen markets like this already develop, for example, in Europe and America,
Right.
like Park at My House or whatever it's called,
Yes.
.com.
Yeah.
And these are great ways for people to make money on the side.
Right.
And also, what I've seen, and we're sort of getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, is landlords buying properties that have parking space because that's an extra revenue stream for them
Exactly.
as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure you're going to elaborate a little bit more. So let's talk about what the problem is first. And
Yeah.
maybe you can help us understand
Yeah.
whether it's a Taiwan specific problem as well, and how it sort of, how developed that is in Taiwan as well. We go
Right.
back a little bit. You
Yeah.
talked about the vision and the value proposition. What is the problem? Why
Right.
is it just supply and demand of parking spaces?
Well, that's the biggest issue there, of course. But on the other hand, then I'm trying to solve in Taiwan, simply because if people have been to Taiwan and around, like outside of Taipei, especially, you will find a lot of street parkings, but we do not have a sidewalk. We don't have any sidewalks there, because it's
No
all
sidewalks at all.
no sidewalks at all, outside of Taipei City.
Right.
Well, like a lot of cities they don't, and because it's occupied by the street, like parallel parking spaces, and that is the problem we wanted to solve as well. So if you look at the two questions, or two things at the same time, short of parking spaces, no sidewalks, and shared parking is the best way to solve that problem, because I have been speaking to the city government around Taiwan. And we realized, all the government, they have the sense of, they know the issue, the parking issue is actually really bad for a city growing, to be a better city, more friendly. But, in Taiwan, we're a free country and people have a, free mind. They're so used to riding a scooter or, driving a car, just park right in front of the stores, right? They don't want to change. They don't want to change. So several cities, they have tried to implement the sidewalks. They made it right. They make it. They made it. But however, the people, citizens against it.
Right.
They say, if you have a sidewalk there, I cannot park my car in front of the store anymore.
So back up a little bit so I can understand, because I'm
Yep.
sure people listening will want this explained. What's the deal with the sidewalk? So
Yeah.
sidewalk, you can have a sidewalk and parking, no?
Right, but Taiwan is a very tiny
Yeah.
country and small cities, and like if you want to have a sidewalk and also have a side parking at the same time, for sure the road will be smaller,
Yeah.
right, and the traffic will be it's gonna be create some traffic jams there.
Right.
More.
Is it like Tokyo? Because I know there's a lot of back streets there where you can just narrowly get one of those like little minivans. don't you?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. I've
yeah.
never been, so
You
I just
never-
want. Okay. No, I mean
Right.
obviously Taiwan. I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
just in parallel how the city's planned out.
Right.
So you can either have sidewalks or parking. You can't have both.
Well, I mean, even in Taiwan, there are some cities has a sidewalk, but car parks on the sidewalk.
Oh,
that,
I see.
that is the
that
problem.
legal?
That is illegal, but like, you know, it's just too many out there, and the police, they just can't
do anything.
They can't do anything. It's just like people call the police, they will do it individual case, but they don't do every single case.
So you have to initiate the police to go out there and ticket that guy.
Right,
They won't be doing
exactly.
it themselves anyway.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Oh, that's a problem.
That's a problem. That's a big issue.
That pisses a lot of people off as well. There's a lot of unhappy people out as a result. Maybe we can talk about the numbers, just how big the problem is. And we sort of jumped past that slide. If we can go back in and back to that initial opportunity slide. Can you give it some numbers? And bear in mind that some people are listening rather than watching the pitch deck.
I see. Okay.
So please sort of walk us through the numbers. How big a problem is this in Taipei alone?
Well, I mean, if you see a number on the deck, you know, there are like half of the cars registered in Taipei, they do not have their own parking spaces.
Right.
So that means 50% of the cars, they're actually parking on the streets legally or illegally.
Right.
Right.
Let me understand that.
Yeah.
That's really important. But the parallel with Tokyo, you can't buy a car without a parking space. You have
Taiwan, you don't need to buy a parking space.
Right. Okay. So that you would have thought that was dealt with at the point of purchase.
Yeah. Right.
The police actually come around your place in Tokyo and measure out the parking.
Exactly.
So in Taiwan, you can buy a car without any sort of like necessary parking space.
No. As long as you have money, you like, you know, pay with cash, and then you're done with
cash speak. So what are the numbers here? You've got 640,000.
That's the indoor parking spaces, and that is the target that we are targeting right now to Taipei.
So there's nearly 400,000, 392,000 vehicles don't have a parking space. So there's nearly twice. There's nearly two private parking spaces for every car that doesn't have a space. Right?
Exactly, right. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have an idea of the spare capacity with the indoor private parking spaces of the 640,000?
Yeah, that's the indoor parking spaces that we have, the number that we have in Taipei City.
Right. And how many of those are not being used or available or would be available for those 392,000?
Okay, so for the 640,000 indoor parking spaces, I think 1/3 is actually vacant. It's just not
being used.
Not being used.
Why?
I actually don't know. Or, you know, that it could be, well, when I say it's not being used, I mean, it's not, like, it could be for company use. Yeah. Like, you know, people park in the morning, but they drive out at night. So it's vacant at night. And actually, the residents, people who's living close to that area, can use that at night, but they're not opened up for outsider.
Right. So this like goes back to your point about Airbnb.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's redundancy in the model, isn't it? There's a lot of latency, I suppose, where you know it's there, it's just being used partly, and that, you know, if somebody uses it 2 hours, 3 hours a day, that basically blocks off a whole day.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. But if you have a more optimized matching algorithm, you could park somebody in there for 6 hours a day whilst they're at the office and so on, and then okay, all right, I'm with you. All right, we've identified the problem. I want to dance forward a little bit. You've got this interesting slide at the end of the pitch deck which sort of talks about the problem as well. It's in your conclusion, but I think it's important to bring to the front of the problem. You say 40% of the scooter accidents in Taipei is caused by parallel parking on the street. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Right, I got this number from Taipei City when I spoke to them, and because when you have like, you know, Taiwan has just too many scooters on the streets. And every time when a parallel parking, you know, people park their car, and when they open a door, unconsciously, scooter just run after that. So 47% of the accident for scooters actually caused by the parallel parking. So that is also a problem and issue that Taipei City actually brought it up to the table, and say that they have a plan to remove the parallel parking actually, but they don't disclose to the citizen because they know people will go against it, because this is how we live right now, and we don't want to change. But they have a plan, a long-term plan to 2025 to reduce the parallel parking by 50%. So by saying that, the parking spaces will be eliminated. And
convert to sidewalk?
Yeah, convert to sidewalk.
Right.
So there will be less parking spaces later on in a few next 6 years.
Right, but what are they going to replace them with?
A sidewalk.
But okay, so but where are they going to park the cars?
No, I mean, so like when they meet me, they're so happy.
Oh, right, okay. So they don't have a plan to. They don't have an official plan.
They actually do have an official plan. So like school, hospital, or like, you know, government, you know, those like government-owned buildings, they already open it up for the outsider to use.
Yeah, you can't park in a hospital though, surely.
Right. I'm not so sure how that works.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the hospital car parking is like the most oversubscribed parking in any city, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
You're going to have them parking in like the ambulance bays and everything?
No, we're not. No, I'm sure they're not going to do that.
Okay, so very interesting. 47% of accidents caused to scooters.
Parallel parkings, yep.
Cyclists as well.
Cyclists.
And there's a lot of cyclists in Taiwan, right?
So many.
Okay, so really we're talking about a smart city solution here. Yeah. And I know Taiwan's quite advanced in smart cities as well. Right. So Taipei, there's a lot of talk about, the clean energy and electric buses.
Right.
All those. I mean, it's quite advanced, isn't it, Taipei, compared to a lot of Asian cities.
Right.
Except when it comes to parking.
Exactly.
So enter you guys, Takupa. So let's talk about the solution. What is your solution?
So the shared parking, we're trying to open it up. If you look at two different level, because we have the strategy, how to penetrate the market. So at the moment, one is the hourly and one is the monthly users. So when I talk about hourly, it's very straightforward. You book in advance, you book for 1 hour parking space and you can use them. But this hourly is actually a bit more harder to penetrate because it's something new. People are not used to it. So because I actually knocked the door to all the buildings already, and majority will say no for it because of the security issue. But I think simply because they're just not so used of this kind of technology and this new business model. So in majority, they never tried it. They don't want to try it. So alternative, I was like, okay, so why don't we just do monthly? Because monthly parking for rents is very common in majority in Taipei. So okay, let's just set up for monthly for now, right? So people use monthly, and I just give them a button of hourly, and people who want to press that, they pressed it, they use them, right? So every time when I speak to my customer, I was like, before you rent out your monthly parking space to the outsider, there must be a period of time that you can't have the customer. Right, so there might be a month, there might be 3 weeks. Why don't you just rent out for hourly for a while? It was like, yeah, sure, why not? Right.
So you get them on board with monthly,
exactly,
and then once they're on board with the idea, hourly probably for them might be more profitable as well.
It's more profitable, right? Yeah. So I mean that is the strategy that we actually dive in and to put in front of it.
Okay. Tell me about knocking on the doors of people, because it may sound like getting away from the technology a bit, but any investor likes to hear this. This is your hustle deck, right?
Right, okay.
Who did you knock on the doors? Tell us a little bit about those conversations.
Okay, so I actually quit my job on November 2017, and my app launched August 2018. So there is almost more than half year of time I was in Taiwan. So just to prepare my app launch. So before that, I want to make sure I have enough suppliers, right? I mean, on my supply side, on my app. So I started to speaking with all the buildings people, and I was like, do you want to use this app? What is your interest rate of using this? And majority of saying that, because I started with hourly. So I think 95% they're saying no, usually. And so first building, second building, third building, fourth building was like, this is not right. We should do something different. Because all the feedbacks from the people out there, they just don't want to try something new. Think about it. I mean, for the house owner, they're more older, because they don't like to try something new, right? So you have to try to convince them in the stuff they're using it, or the way they're so in common. So monthly is what I thought about it. I was like, okay, monthly maybe something we should try it. So on the 5th, 6th, 7th buildings that we started to knock the door, and people started to stop and listen to you. So that is when we start to say, oh, okay, monthly is the target we should actually focus at this moment. So I started to plan for the monthly on an app as well. So and later on, I went back home and I started to Google and do a lot of investigated on the internet, and I realized there are actually a few of the groups on the Facebook. People, when they look for the monthly, they actually post their
right. So they're actually doing this already ad hoc.
Ad hoc, exactly. So I was like, there's only one in Taiwan at the moment. So why don't we create more on a Facebook? And I started to get more customers from there after I created my groups. Right.
So that's a good sign that there is a very rudimentary solution out there.
Right.
Because the need is so high, maybe, that people will go to Facebook and just post, or maybe a WhatsApp group, for example, and just post stuff randomly.
Right.
And it's hit or miss whether or not they
But
get.
I mean, that is still a minority on the Facebook, because usually the house owner, they're like over 45 years old, and 50 years old. They like to post, they just like to print out and post out in front of their door. Right?
Okay.
So that's the reason why I walk on the street every day and I start to, take a picture of it and I just call them.
Yeah.
Right. So
what was that like, those conversations when you called them?
I was just like, hey, I mean, because I read your posters on in front of the door, and then you're waiting for your, and the first few times I told them that I'm like, like sort of an agency, right?
Yeah.
And they just say no for it, right?
Yeah.
So after that, I told them, like I'm interested in your parking space. Can we meet?
Yeah.
Right. So after you meet, it's much easier to convince than on the telephone, because on the telephone they don't want to listen to you. It's more like they're getting a lot of sales call every day.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's nothing to do with you. That's just the nature of how you're approaching them.
Exactly. Right.
Okay. Interesting. So you went out and hustled. How many doors did you knock on, do you think?
Oof, I don't know. Like more like.
Give it a number.
Okay. Telephone calls, I think more than 40, 50 at least. And meet them in person, I think 20 times, I guess.
Okay.
And go by every individual buildings. I've done it for about 2-3 months. And I don't know how many, 20, 30, 40. I have no idea. I didn't count it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this is great insight and feedback as well, isn't it? Meeting people face to face and hearing them as well, and hearing their frustrations as well, in a way.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe, like you said, the only people that ever approach them are salespeople. Yeah. They're trying to sell them a service, right? So they're a little bit suspicious, and at the same time, maybe I can't be bothered it's more trouble than it's worth to rent this out, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
All right. Let's have a look at where you are in terms of the journey. So you went out and you hustled.
Yeah.
You did your door knocking, your phone calls, your cold calls, right? So you've done all that. If we jump back into the pitch deck, there's a couple of slides here. If I sort of go back a little bit, slides 4 and 5, what you've achieved so far. Yeah. So you've got a little bit here. I'll just flick forward to the Facebook fan page and then also to your facts and achievements. Tell us some data in terms of where you are, numbers, how far you've come, and so on.
Right. So we actually set up the like our own targets, about 400 parking spaces within half years, because it's only me and my partner. And just 2 of us, and we don't have that much resources. So it was like, we were like, 400 parking spaces within half year. Let's just don't mind about any transactions there. Let's just make sure the supplies are enough. So when the app launch, people see it, they see enough parking spaces there, so they will use them, right? I know a lot of like entrepreneurs, they just make the products and they will like, people open up the app and it's just nothing, zero. Yeah. And they delete it next day. And we don't want that to happen, right? So for the first half year, I would just want to be very hustle, just trying to get more numbers on the parking spaces. And very luckily that we actually achieved more than 500 parking spaces within half year. And so we thought it's a good timing to look for investor to put more capital to invest on the marketing and also on our engineer teams. Right. Because, there already have about there's 1.3, but we have 1.5K registered at the moment up till today.
Are they parkers or are they parking space owners?
Both. Oh,
okay.
Both. Just people who register on our app.
Yeah.
Right. So these people, they gave us a lot of feedbacks already, and we don't have engineer teams to fix the bugs or to implement the UI. So we thought that it's actually a good time at the moment to just look for investor to get the team on and to start to rock and roll. Okay. Yep.
You've done 51 transactions there. That means people have paid to use a space.
Right, exactly.
Go on, sorry.
Sorry, yep. So 51 transactions there is actually people trying to book through our app already. Yeah. And that was not part of plan. That was not part of our plan, but it was very lucky that we got people to use it. However, our app itself has some bugs. So when we see the transaction there that is not successful, and it says it's failure, I start to pick up the phone call and start to call them, say, hey, what's going on, right? You just can't use them, or what was the situation, right? So I just trying to bring both parties together and to meet them so they get the transactions done successfully manually.
Why were they falling through, the transactions?
Well, I mean, like they're trying to book throughout an app, and it just some bugs,
like the payment gateway.
The payment gateways, or just screen just frozen and just crash or whatever reason. Yeah, yeah.
And your model is you take a percentage of that transaction.
I do. Yeah. Yeah. So we take a percentage on the driver's side.
Yeah. You don't charge the parking space owner?
Well, not the owner at the moment because we need them.
Right, of course. Yeah. You say at the moment, will you charge in future?
I was thinking, I was considering yes, but I don't know yet. I want to see how it goes.
Right. You could maybe have premium spaces, couldn't you?
I'm actually playing on that.
Yeah. So
I'm playing on that.
For example, I mean, I mentioned it before, like with landlords.
Yeah.
Like if they buy a property, the margins on a property are quite small. Let's say it's 10, 20% of the actual rental figure is their profit. But if they add a parking space, it's 100% profit.
Yeah.
Because that parking space comes with the property and it's all money to the bottom line.
Right.
So once you start getting professional landlords on this and they start saying, well, maybe I can break even on the rental, but if I add a parking space, I can make an extra 10%, 15% on my mortgage, right? On my rental yield. That is great for them. Yeah. And then once you start getting that in, then you may have people saying, look, okay, for me, this is like an investment, right?
Right.
I can buy parking spaces. Yeah. Now I want premium listing.
Yeah.
I'm willing to spend a few $100 on that, right?
Right.
Okay.
But like, for that story, I'm not so sure if it's different in Singapore and Taiwan because, buying a land and an apartment in Taiwan is super expensive at the moment. And so when I say it's an extra, if it's an extra money for them, they don't really care because it's a small amount of money for them because they usually are more richer. So we're trying to get them less hassle. We don't want them really to use them that much. So we spoke to a lot of building security or security companies. I want them to work on the app later on in the future. So the house owner, they just leave everything for their security and they just pay them partial profits, so they don't have to do anything, but they start still earning money, a small amount of money for them. Right, so I think that would be more ideal, especially in Taipei, right? But I know if I duplicate this kind of methods or this kind of business model to overseas, it might be a little bit different.
Right.
Yeah. You have to localize. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the basics are the same, but there may be some local flavors, nuances, right?
Right.
So, like for example, if you took it to Japan, there may be a different economics involved, but the basics are the same.
The basics are the same.
Okay.
Right. Exactly.
All right. There's another slide here.
Yeah.
Talking about your journey, the fan page, the groups versus app downloads. Where are you getting your users from?
Right there.
Yeah, which one's providing the most?
Okay, the fan page, the groups. Okay, so I have a Facebook fan page, and the fan page and the groups are totally different things for our company.
Yeah.
So groups are very straightforward. I need a parking space. I need a parking space, or I have a parking space I want to lease. Okay, so people, demand and supply is on there, straightforward. But for the fan page itself, I don't want to sell our product on our fan page simply because, people are just so tired of seeing all the, advertisements and on the internet. So our fan page, we deliver, why do you use Takupa? What can we do for our city better? So I deliver a lot of messages that if you don't park your car on a parallel parking, but instead on the indoor, we will have a better city environment, and the government will provide more sidewalks for you. So that is, an ideal and a dream for the citizen to pursue a better city.
Yeah.
Because, in the startup in nowadays, we always talking about, solving, what is your pain point? What do you solve? But, beyond that, I want to give our people say, what can we do better? Right? I know we are all satisfied, what we are and where we're from and whatever. But there's certain things that you can actually make your lifestyle, make your city better. And what is that? So we want to throw that questions to our people, right? So on the fan page, actually, we have more people start to agree of our philosophy of doing business. So when those people there stick with us, they will not change if there's other competitor coming out, because majority of the commercial product, they're just selling their products more likely. So when people are they really understand about your philosophy, they agree with it, they will always follow you, and even your mistake that you made, they will just wait for you to be better later on. Even this time, because our app has a lot of bugs and stuff, and there are a lot, 1 or 2 users, they are telling me, why are you not fixing your bug? I really want to use your app. And I told him we're a startup, right? We're running out of capital and stuff. He was like, you know what? If you need like, engineer, I can actually introduce to you. So like this kind of, like feedbacks to us were so appreciated. And we started to understand people really care about their lifestyle, their city, their environment. And they're with us. They want to make their city better.
Yeah, that is a good example in building a movement rather than a business.
Exactly, right.
And the business really is a solution within the movement. You're about how do we improve our lifestyles? Which brings me to the question of why do you care? Why do you care about this? Why you?
Okay, so I was in Canada for 12 years, and I went back to Taiwan, and I was like, because I left my country for long enough, I'm like, what's going on with Taiwan? Like, compared to Canada, Canada is so beautiful country. What's going on? So I started to dive in, to look at the city problems, and like I'm always complaining about my country, And so one day I was like, beside complaining, I can do something for that. You can convert that, your complaints into like something to improve or implement. So I started to think about something business, like in terms of like to make things better. Right. So
why parking specifically when it comes to business?
Right,
why not, for example, like alleviating poverty or helping old people? Because there's so many things you could do. And I'm not saying one's better than the other, but why did that mean something more to you?
Right. Because I think the traffic in Taiwan and the parking problem issue in Taiwan is a chaos. It's really a chaos. I always think if you look at the number of Taiwan, it's actually quite on the top 5. Right, economically or like ecosystem, whatever. But if a foreigner come into Taiwan today, if they arrive in the airport and they're going on to the city, they was like, "Are you sure Taiwan is an innovative city country?" Right. So I always ask my question: what can I do better? Right. What can I do better? I think we should change something. And I'm a person who really like to jog and walk on the city. I can spend like 10 hours a day on the weekend without using any MRT, no bikes, just walk.
Is that what you did in Canada?
Not really, but in Japan, yes.
Oh, of course, in Japan, it's fantastic for walking, right?
Yeah, it's fantastic for walking. So I want Taiwan to become like Japan.
Right.
Yeah. So I realize, like sidewalk and parking spaces is conflict in Taiwan.
Yeah. Do you think that your experience of living in Canada and Japan helped you see that? Because if you grew up in Taipei or Taiwan, anywhere,
you're not going to see that.
Right, you're so used. This is how it is, right?
Yeah, like you're so used to it.
Yeah,
because I spoke to a lot of Taiwanese people, like the local friends there, and they just, what's going on with the traffic? It's good. I look at South Asia. I was like, why do you compare to South Asia? You compare to Japan.
Look at compared to Jakarta, we're doing all right. So,
so I'm like, we can do better. I always tell them we can do better.
Interesting, and it takes. It's a fascinating riff in this idea of the immigrant entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I know you're not an immigrant in your own country, but you've lived outside and you've seen things.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people bring when they come from the outside in.
Yeah.
They challenge ideas and status quo and say, why not?
Right, exactly.
Why can't it be like this? I've seen how it could be here.
Right.
So those people who've lived outside bring in something unique.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see if you can apply that to Taiwan moving forward and the rest of Asia as well. You mentioned your co-founder as well, and I want to bring up the slide of your team here.
Okay.
We'll sort of dance towards the end of the pitch deck. Now, you have yourself, Kai-Yin Lin, and you have to pronounce his name. I'm not going to do it.
Hao Ji
Zhang.
Yeah, Hao Ji Zhang.
Hao Ji Zhang. Okay. How did you guys meet?
Okay, because I was outsourcing my development product, and with a professor actually for a college. And the professor actually introduced him to me. So, and he actually made my UI and UX.
Yeah.
So I was like, why don't we work together? He was like, let's do it.
What was his background?
His background is he's a fresh graduate student.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's on the UI, his major.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your background, I already talked a little bit about it, but you did recruitment in Japan?
In Japan,
in Japanese?
In English, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, because my Japanese is not good enough in for doing business. Actually.
So you did how many years were you?
2.5 years.
2.5 years, okay.
Right.
So in your team, essentially, you are the hustler, the sales guy.
Right.
And he's the designer.
He's a designer.
Okay.
Right.
Your next hire would be a technical
for
founder,
sure. Yeah.
co-founder.
Yep. Technical co-founder.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And where does it go from here? You raising at the moment? Are you recruiting at the moment? Tell us a little bit about what's next.
I'm raising at the moment. Okay, so I think I have enough data to show at the moment, and we can prove the market's out there and the transaction is out there, and we want to raise the money and start to recruit team.
Okay. Before I ask you what your raise is how have you funded it until now?
By myself, my own saving.
Okay, so you funded it all. So how long have you been bootstrapping, digging into your savings account until now? Okay.
Yeah.
And now you're raising.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about the stage? This would be a seed round, right?
It was, yeah.
And how much are you raising?
I would say 500K.
Is it US?
US.
Okay,
500K US to 1 mil. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think 500K will be enough for now.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. And what would that buy you, or what would that buy the team?
Yeah, for the I would like engineer teams there, and also I spend a little bit of money on the advertisement because I didn't spend any advertisement yet.
Yeah.
Today. So
Tell us a little bit about that because that's quite important, isn't it? Is that your customer acquisition?
Right.
How would you advertise? Would it be Facebook ads, Google ads?
Facebook for now for sure. Because I think 95% of Taiwanese, they're always on Facebook every day, like more than 2 hours or something. And Facebook is the majority in Taiwan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything missing from your team at the moment that you, not necessarily people, but technology that you need?
Technology, yes.
Yeah. What's sort of the missing link or the missing parts in your setup at the moment that you need to get to the next level?
I think the engineer teams is still
right. And they're going to be local in Taiwan as well?
Well, yeah, that's better. I think it's better, because I want to be with them together in the same office, especially for startups. Yeah, I don't want them to work remotely at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as an investor, one of the things I'll be interested in is who else is in this market. So you mentioned competition and the fact that, for example, you're building a community, which is a barrier to entry, isn't it? If people trust you, even though you might not be the cheapest or necessarily have the coolest brand, people will stick with you for those reasons, right? That's a real brand, and that's sort of the relationship that you have.
Yeah.
Who else is in this market? Is there anybody else moving into this market? Is there anybody else already there? Anything slightly like what you do?
Yes, there is another company. They're also call themselves a shared parking services, but they're more focused on the like not indoor, like outdoor parking space. So I think we don't really compete each other very directly.
Right.
So
what's the difference there? Obviously indoor, outdoor, I understand. But
but
why is that any different? Why can't they just do what you're doing?
Well, I mean, simply because they're more focused on the hardware system. They're trying to sell like a ground lock outdoor, right? So, if your car arrives on the parking spaces, you have to press the button and the lock will like go down.
Like they do in Japan, right?
Exactly.
Under the car, right?
Yeah, so they're selling that particular hardware devices, and the platform, I think, is an extra for them.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, they're focused on the outdoor at the moment, and that is not what we're trying to go after because we think outdoor spaces should not, it's not for cars, it's for people.
So theirs is basically hardware-based with a SaaS model built into it, whereas yours is just the platform.
Just the platform service,
Okay, interesting. Very good. And, I mean, very interesting what you're trying to build in Taiwan. Why are you here then in Singapore?
Well, because I'm just trying to look for the investors everywhere in the world.
Right.
And wherever there's opportunities, I'll just fly over.
Okay.
Because I think it's very important for me to to raise the fund right now to continue our business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've come here to Singapore. A bit of backstory to that. You last week you were sick, right? You had the flu.
Right. Yeah.
And when your flight was due, and you had to. Did you sort of like haul yourself onto the flight half
yes,
dead?
I did.
You were like,
I did.
Okay.
I was sort of like thinking if I should just extend or whatever, but once I know the flight's there, if I change my ticket, it costs money. I have to go.
Yeah. Well, it says a lot, isn't it? Because you bought a flight ticket to come here to Singapore to do this show you're coming to the event on the 20th as well.
Yeah.
You were half dead, dying of flu, and getting on a flight when you're like that is the worst feeling ever, right?
Yeah.
But you did it.
Yeah, I did it.
And I think that checks a box. Any investor looking at this, this guy, is he persistent? Right?
I always think if you don't do it today, when are you going to do it?
Right.
Yeah. If you can do it, just go. Just do it. Right.
Well, good for you.
You're not dying. You're still alive. Do it.
You're not half dead. You're half alive.
I'm half alive. Yeah.
Good for you. So tell us a little bit about who you want to speak to, because I think, as you probably know, there is a lot of cash out there in the startup ecosystem in Asia, and there's a lot of money moving around at the moment. And I'm sure you won't have a problem raising funds. The challenge will be getting people who can add the value add to the investment, so the extra.
Right.
Are you looking for somebody who comes from the world of parking? Are you looking for somebody who comes from the world of real estate? What would be good for you in terms of an investor conversation?
Very interesting questions. I never thought about that, because the reason why I come to Singapore this time, I was thinking that South Asia could be a potential market for my app as well. That's the reason why I'm also here. I want to explore, and people can they can bring me to the South Asian market as well, because I think the traffic itself in South Asia is also chaos. And I've been to Vietnam, I've been to Thailand, I've been to Cambodia, a lot of South Asian countries. I think we have a similar questions. Problems. Yeah,
absolutely. Right. Okay. You're open to all conversations, as well as people, like you said, who may be able to open doors into new markets as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Kai-Yin Lin, thank you so much for
thank you very much,
making it here. And, finding the energy within yourself to get on that flight and making it. And, you're looking in much better condition now.
Thank you.
Wishing you all the best for your ongoing journey of Takupa, and wishing you all the best for the event this week.
Yep.
Looking forward to seeing how you get on then, and I'm sure the investors as well looking forward to having a conversation with you, and as well meeting the other founders who are doing their thing. Everybody's out there hustling like yourself. Exactly. It's great to share stories. So what is your preferred channel for people to reach out with you? LinkedIn work for you?
LinkedIn work for me, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, we'll put all the details in the show notes. That's awesome. Kai-Yin Lin, everybody, all the way from Taiwan. Look out for this guy, and thanks a lot for coming to share your story with us today.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
thank you.
Excellent.